Hi guys, it's James, back with another list. And this is actually the last one, not the last one I'm going to do, the last one out of numerous lists that I had prepared or in progress after I worked through my backlog. So I'll just have to come up with some more. And this one sort of came about because of 2 or 3 lists that I tried to do, and I had almost a finished list that I was starting, which was top 10 detective films. But there was a few of them that I wasn't too sure about, and then one of the films also had another genre that was mindbender films, so I thought, well, top 10 mindbender films, and but I couldn't get enough of those ones together. And then another category was Post-Noir, which is also known as Neo-Noir, and I thought, well, I looked into those and I found a few that transferred over from those lists, and some more that I hadn't considered, and some other ones that I hadn't done before but wanted to. So this is instead of putting top 10 post-noir / neo-noir films, I'll call it the top 10 noir films, but this involves post-noir and neo-noir films. And these ones are essentially films, sort of homages that harken back to those dark crime dramas and stuff. Not that this is the crime drama list, but the crime movies, or the dark movies of like the 40s and 50s and stuff. But they're done in modern age. And so that is what this list is. So we will start with number 10. Number 10 is a film from 1998 called Phoenix. And this is one that I still only own on VHS. I haven't been able to find it anywhere. It might be online, but I haven't been able to find the DVD or Blu-ray. I don't know that they exist for it. But this one was directed by Danny Cannon, who has directed a few films, but he's directed a ton of TV. Great director. And the fact that this was a direct-to-video just based on the cast in this movie, check this out. The cast in this movie for a direct-to-video back in 1998. Ray Liotta, Anthony LaPaglia, Angelica Houston, Daniel Baldwin, Jeremy Piven, Tom Noonan, Xander Berkeley, Giancarlo Esposito, Brittany Murphy in one of her early roles, Carrie Wurr, and Giovanni Ribisi. Get a movie today with a cast like that, it's probably up for Oscars. Not that this one deserves to be up for Oscars, but it was an entertaining watch. You have Ray Liotta, who's a cop, and his partners, Daniel Baldwin and Jeremy Piven and all that. He's a degenerate gambler who always loses, and he's in pretty deep with his bookie. And I think the bookie's name is Chicago. And what he plots to do is it's not indebted to his bookie, so it's one of the guys in the criminal underworld. And I believe let me see, Chicago is played by Tom Noonan. And so he decides to get together with his cop buddies, partners, to rob a few bookies to pay it back. And in the process, he meets up with Brittany Murphy, who's just this young, hot girl, and he's like an older cop. Doesn't want anything to do with her that way, really. But he ends up getting involved with her mom, played by Angelica Houston. It's a nice little crime noir thriller, and it has a very bright orange look to it, sort of like Bruckheimer films, or like the Bad Boys movies, or CSI Miami. It doesn't take place in Miami, but it has that kind of orange hue to it a lot of the movie. But Ray Liotta does a fantastic job as the center point of this film. That is Phoenix, one that I wanted to fit into a list for quite some time. Number 9, we have a film from 2002, and it's called City of Ghosts. And this was the theatrical film directorial debut, writing and directorial debut of a theatrical film by Matt Dillon, who also stars in the film. You've got Matt Dillon and James Caan, Stellan Skarsgård, Natasha McElhone, Gerard Depardieu, Rose Byrne, and Matt Dillon's a con man and gets involved in an international scam that was set up by his mentor, played by James Caan. And it goes south, and James Caan's out of the country. So Matt Dillon has to flee the country, and he finds out that his mentor, Marvin, James Caan, is in Cambodia. So he flees to Cambodia to hook up with him and hopefully get in on another scam there, but also because he has to get out of the country. And he was the one who set up the job. And this movie was actually shot in Cambodia. And I think I saw an interview with Matt Dillon where it said that it was the first film that was allowed to shoot in Cambodia, I think. And it's sort of like he goes from one scam in the States to another scam in Cambodia, but he also finds out some stuff about his mentor that he didn't know before. And his mentor is in a lot of trouble with this scam. So it's how things work out, because the majority of the movie takes place in Cambodia. So, a great directorial debut by Matt Dillon. I don't know that he's done anything since. It says that he directed an episode of Oz and this film, but I'm not sure if he's directed a movie since. I'll have to look into that. So that was City of Ghosts. Number 8, we have a film from 2009 called Across the Hall. Another one featuring Brittany Murphy. And she tragically died some years ago. And it said that this was the last movie released in her lifetime, and I think she put out a few more. There were 2 or 3 other movies released after, posthumously, after she died, but this one was the last one released prior to her death. And this one stars Brittany Murphy, Mike Vogel, and Danny Pino. And this one is sort of, Danny Pino plays Terry, and his fiance, his fiance, played by Brittany Murphy, he calls his best friend because he's Mike Vogel, who's just in the bath or whatever, and because he believes that she's cheating on him. So he's followed her to a hotel, and he's in, I believe, the room next door, and he calls his friend. He's like, I know she's cheating on me. I have a gun. I need you to come here and help me out. And things get very, very tense and very strange once they get to the hotel. It's as far as I'll go because, yeah, the end of the movie, the payoff is worth the wait. And they all 3 of the principal actors. You've also got Brad Greenquist. He plays the porter in the hotel, and you'd recognize him as Victor Pascow, the man who dies early on in the original Pet Sematary and appears to the father as like a ghost, still has like a mashed up head or whatever, and shows him, tells him about the Pet Cemetery. And he was also in the movie Lost Souls as one of the guys on trial. It's a very distinctive face. So if you remember Victor Pascow from Pet Sematary, you know who I'm talking about. He plays the porter in the hotel. So he's another guy in there. He's just got a slight supporting role. So that is Across the Hall. Number 7, we have a film from 1997 called Keys to Tulsa. And this was a movie I saw on VHS years ago. I managed to find the DVD. It's the rated version. I had the unrated version on VHS, so I don't know how much of a difference there is. Anyway, this was a good little noir thriller, and it stars Eric Stoltz, James Spader, Michael Rooker. Come on, there you are. Deborah Kara Unger, Joanna Going, Mary Tyler Moore, James Coburn, Cameron Diaz in a small role at the beginning. And another one that has a really impressive cast for a movie that basically went direct to video. You got Eric Stoltz playing a guy named Richter who runs a soon-to-be failing newspaper, and he's the son of a wealthy woman played by Mary Tyler Moore, but he's sort of not so much a degenerate, he's just kind of a screw-up, and he's losing money, and his mom is cutting him off from the family fortune and stuff, so he ends up going to get help from an old acquaintance of his, played by James Spader, who is married to Deborah Kara Unger, and her brother is Michael Rooker, who's a rich guy who's inherited a lot of money. And it's sort of blackmail's involved, and Eric Stoltz and James Spader have a very tense relationship. And I think Deborah Kara Unger is his wife, but they used to have a relationship, her and Eric Stoltz. And he meets up with a stripper played by Joanna Going, or exotic dancer or whatever, and forms a relationship with her, and there's a murder plot, and it was just another neat little film that I just happened upon and liked the cast and ended up loving the movie. That hadn't heard anything about it before I found it just by chance, so I would recommend this one quite a bit. Michael Rooker, James Spader and Michael Rooker, I think, are the two big standouts of this film. James Coburn's always great, but I thought those two guys were the standouts of this film, because James Spader, I'm not sure he smiles throughout the entire movie. He has a very I don't think his character is a very violent, dangerous character, but he has a very menacing look throughout the movie. Keys to Tulsa. Number 6, we have a film from 1998 called Goodbye Lover. Now this one I found out about, I had this one on VHS. I still only have it on VHS. I don't believe I have the DVD. I haven't watched it in some time. And this one I found out just by, I used to collect Maxim magazine, and back when it used to be a good, I'd say, it used to be an actual good men's magazine, now it's like a fashion magazine. They used to have jokes and interviews and not contests, but like they'd rate hot sauces or certain foods and stuff. But they also had a movie section for upcoming movies in the theaters, and there were several where the dates were wrong, the titles changed, and they were coming out, they were going to be released, but they never came out in theaters. And this was one that I saw in there, and it seemed like it had a good cast and a good premise. And it is a really twisty, very twisty movie. Because you've got Patricia Arquette, who is married to Dermot Mulroney. But Patricia Arquette is also having an affair with Dermot Mulroney's older brother, played by Don Johnson. And you've got Ellen DeGeneres in there as a cop. You have Mary Louise Parker. That's essentially the principles of the movie. And it's one of those, Dermot Mulroney doesn't really know the woman he's married to, not really. And this one is so twisty. It's really hard to summarize the movie without giving much away, except it's sort of a love triangle with cops involved and scams and cons. But it is also the movie that introduced me to Save Ferris. I had heard the name before as a band, I suppose, but there's a song called Goodbye that plays over the end of the movie, the end credits. That's just fantastic. I just love the song so much. And that's what led me to encounter the band Save Ferris. And so, and sorry I can't say too much about this one. It's just, it's very entertaining, and it's fun to watch where the movie goes and where it ends up. Excuse me. Great performances by all. Goodbye Lover. Number 5, we have a film from 1998, and it is the directorial debut. I had considered it putting on my top 10 directorial debuts, but I think it just barely missed the cut. This is the directorial debut of Christopher Nolan. This is the film called Following. And it's a black and white film, and it's not a very long one. So if you watch it, you're not investing too much time. I think it's just over an hour. It's like an hour and, what does it say? Hour and 15 minutes, hour and 16 minutes, I think. Oh, no, an hour and 9 minutes. And this is one where I have the VHS, and I had a chance to get the DVD when I was working at Rogers, but I missed out. And this one is a film kind of like Memento. Well, not like Memento, but kind of like other films where it's not told in a linear fashion. It's told in a non-linear fashion where it jumps back and forth between present and past. Whereas Memento goes like from the end back to the beginning with the black and white scene spliced going forward. This one is just all black and white, but jumping back and forth between now and then. And it's essentially, you get a guy, he's credited as the young man. And he just takes upon himself to start following people. And he's following a woman around, following these people around. And he catches the notice of another man who notices he's following these people. And he sort of makes contact with him and takes him under his wing and shows him the proper way to follow people without being detected and like breaking into people's apartments and finding out about their lives and all that stuff. And at some point it takes a pretty dark turn. And I hadn't seen the guy who plays the young man before, is Jeremy Theobald, and I hadn't seen anything with him since, but I was reading in the trivia for Tenet, Christopher Nolan's most recent film, which is awesome, by the way. And Jeremy Theobald has a cameo as waiter or the concierge in the restaurant that John David Washington goes to meet Michael Caine. I was like, oh, that's interesting. He brought him, but I don't know if he's been in the other Nolan movies, but he brought him back for this one, which I thought was really cool. And there's not really any other recognizable names in the movie, because you've got like the young man, the blonde, the policeman, the bald guy, homeowner. There's no real name. Well, there's one. There's Alex Hobb plays Cobb. Everyone else is sort of like their profession or the description of them rather than a name. And the DVD had a feature where you could watch it in order, in the linear fashion, sort of like the old special edition of Memento. You'd solve a puzzle and you could watch the movie in chronological order. That's the word I was looking for. But I don't know that, I mean, that'd be like a helpful way to understand the plot more clearly, but I don't know that it would make it a better movie because I liked the way it was presented. So, Following. I think they may have put out a Criterion release of this, which I haven't seen anywhere, but it's out there somewhere. All right, number 4, we have a film from 2001 called Heist. It was actually a David Mamet film. And I don't know if you're that familiar with David Mamet films, but he has a very distinctive writing style. The way his dialogue comes out, it's sort of like Aaron Sorkin's, different style, but you tend to recognize the speech patterns and the dialogue of an Aaron Sorkin film, just like you will if you watch a David Mamet film. And it's very distinctive in this film and his other ones, but one most notably is this one. And this one stars Gene Hackman, Danny DeVito, Delroy Lindo, Rebecca Pidgeon, Sam Rockwell, and Ricky Jay. Ricky Jay's in a lot of Mamet films. So is Rebecca Pidgeon. I believe she was also married to him for a time. And this is essentially, you have a crew of thieves led by Gene Hackman. And through one heist they're doing, he ends up, in order to distract someone so they can get out of there, he takes off his mask and he's caught on security camera. And so he decides, I'm going to get out of the life, but that pisses off his fence, played by Danny DeVito, and he threatens his life unless he does another job for him. And you got the young protege, played by Sam Rockwell. Rebecca Pidgeon plays his wife, I believe. Ricky Jay is another partner in crime there. And it's one of those pull off one more big heist to get out from under the thumb of a dangerous criminal, or more dangerous criminal. And it's a neat little, it's one of the more impressive Mamet films in my opinion. Heist. And it had a great trailer, because it was another one that I would watch all the time when I was working at Rogers, because we had the trailer loop for all the movies coming out that would play. So like every time it came out, it's like, I love this trailer. Danny DeVito is great in the trailer. Gene Hackman has great quotes in it. It's a great movie. Heist. Number 3, we have a film from 2013 called Dead Man Down. And this is another film produced by WWE Films, but the only real indication of that is they have a wrestler who plays a role in the film. In this case, it's Wade Barrett. Plays one of the thugs working for the main criminal kingpin, played by Terrence Howard. And the movie also stars Colin Farrell, Noomi Rapace, Dominic Cooper, Isabel Huppert, Wade Barrett, Frankie G, F. Murray Abraham, Armando Sante, and it's got a great cast, and it's directed by Niels Arden Oplev, and I believe he was the one who directed the original Girl with the Dragon Tattoo film, which starred Noomi Rapace. And this one is, you get Colin Farrell, who's infiltrated the criminal organization led by Terrence Howard in order to gain information and get revenge on Terrence Howard, because he, a few years ago, killed Colin Farrell's wife and child without knowing who Colin Farrell was. And so he's infiltrated the organization, and while he's working for him, he's also abducting and torturing guys. He's taking down his organization while still working for him. And one guy he ends up killing is seen by Noomi Rapace, who lives in an adjacent apartment building, and she blackmails him, saying like, I'm going to go to the police because I have footage, I have video of you killing this man, unless you help me get revenge on this man who injured me, like this drunk driver injured me and messed up my face. So either you help me kill him, or I'm going to lead the police to you. So they end up getting involved with each other while he's still trying to take down the head honcho in the crime organization. And it was another one, just like No One Lives, the one I talked about, where it was just like, yeah, it happens to be produced by WWE Films, but it's not. It's a very high quality film, very well done. Just happens to be produced by them, and it has a wrestler in a role. I think Wade Barrett did a fine job. It's not a big role. Colin Farrell, Noomi Rapace, Terrence Howard, and Dominic Cooper are awesome in the movie. Dead Man Down. Okay, number 2. This almost made number 1, but number 1 I've loved for a lot longer. This one I just saw 3 days ago, I think, and I really haven't been able to stop thinking about it since, so it's at the very least number 2. It's a film from 2018 called Under the Silver Lake. And this was the follow-up film by David Robert Mitchell, who did It Follows, which I am a huge fan of. Some people don't like it. I happen to love it. But I was highly anticipating whatever he was going to do next. And I finally got around to checking this one out, because I hadn't heard hardly anything about it except that it starred Andrew Garfield. And it was kind of weird. But boy, is it kind of weird. It is super weird. It is a super odd, super strange movie, but endlessly fascinating. And it was one that I just, sort of like Revolver, I just haven't been able to stop thinking about it. I've only watched it the one time, and I do have to watch it again soon because I'm trying to wrap my head around things that go in the movie. Andrew Garfield plays Sam, and he's sort of an aimless guy in Los Angeles, and he doesn't appear to have a job, and he hardly pays his rent. He's 4 months overdue on his rent, so he's going to get evicted soon. He sleeps with women all the time, and he ends up meeting a new neighbor in his apartment building complex, played by Riley Keough, Keough. Keough. She's been in several films, and they hang out in her apartment, and then she sends him on his way and says, yeah, we can meet up tomorrow. Well, they're supposed to meet up the next day, and she and her roommates have moved out, gone, vanished. And it's been said that because it was one of the few women that he meets up with that he didn't have sex with, that has spurred some attraction, and he has to find her. Well, this leads him on a very bizarre journey. He spies on her apartment, sees some girl go in there, collect some things, and leave. And he sees a strange symbol painted on the wall. And so he follows her to some other girls, and he follows them to another guy. And it's sort of like one clue leads to another clue, leads to another clue. And there's a bunch of random stuff in this movie where, like, he finds a code hidden in a song that leads him to an observatory, and he has to do something like rub his head on a statue and stand under another part of it. And this guy called the Homeless King leads him blindfolded to this underground bunker, which leads up into a supermarket. And he ends up finding another code that tells him he has to look in this original first issue of a Nintendo Power magazine and matches that map with a map he got from a local comic book artist. No, not a map. He got a cereal box, an open cereal box, which has a free map inside, and that map overlays with this one, and this leads him to this bunker in a clearing. It is so unbelievably strange. And you wonder how much of it is in his head or is actually real, because there's no indication one way or the other. How he keeps finding, like, another one is he follows, he's told by a homeless guy to, if you see a coyote, to follow it. He sees a coyote, so he follows it. And it leads him to this house party up in the Hollywood Hills. And he just happens to run into his ex-girlfriend there. And also a girl whose father was supposedly murdered, and along with the woman he was looking after, played by Riley Keough, and suspects that they may have disappeared, not been murdered. And oh man, it is so strange, but so interesting because you're just like, where is this going? Where is this going? I have to keep watching. And it's, oh man, it is so good and so very strange. Under the Silver Lake. All right, number one. Number one is a film from 1997, another one by David Mamet, and my personal favorite of his, and this is called The Spanish Prisoner. And this one stars Campbell Scott, Steve Martin, Rebecca Pidgeon, and Ricky Jay. See, Rebecca Pidgeon, Ricky Jay. And you've also got Ben Gazzara, Felicity Huffman, Ed O'Neill, and Clark Gregg. And this one got Campbell Scott plays Joe Ross, and he works for a company, and him along with Ricky Jay, partners working in the building, have developed this formula called the process. And they go down to a company retreat down in like the Caribbean or something and present it to the company shareholders, the board, as it were, And essentially, you don't know what the process is, but applying the process will net them like an untold sum of money. And you don't know what that is either. You just see the expression on the board's faces that it is a lot. And then the process is stolen. And Joe meets up with Jimmy down in the Caribbean, played by Steve Martin, in a very uncharacteristic role by him. And he thinks he should be more highly compensated for his work on the process. So he goes to his boss about that, and he's like, well, you'll have to wait till the shareholder meeting and how the stocks come out. And then, like, the process gets stolen, and he thinks Jimmy may be involved, and so he tries to go undercover to get him apprehended, and gets the FBI involved. But the process is stolen, and it might be the FBI that are involved, it might be Jimmy that's involved, it might be his boss that's involved, and it's a very, very complex story. But it's all based around this old, infamous con game called The Spanish Prisoner, which Ed O'Neill, in probably the best scene I've ever seen in Ed O'Neill's career, Al Bundy from Married with Children, and he's also in Modern Family, he plays one of the, I guess, supposed FBI agents. He may be. You don't really know. But he has this great, fantastic monologue in the middle of the movie. And it's another one with very, very distinct Mamet dialogue. And it's a fascinating, fascinating movie that I loved every time I watched it on VHS. I've got the DVD. I've been watching this one for years. And it's also one of my favorite Steve Martin performances, because he played not playing the comedic role at all. And Campbell Scott as the lead is fantastic. Ricky Jay and Steve Martin have some of the best quotes in the movie. I think Ricky Jay has most of the best quotes in the movie. So I think that's good enough foundation for you. So that was The Spanish Prisoner. All right, so that was it for this list. I'll have to come up with some more, but that doesn't seem to be a problem lately, because there's so many different genres of movies, so many different kinds of movies. So you just make one little tweak, and all of a sudden you have a brand new list, because there's so many movies I've seen that other people haven't, that sometimes I just have to go through my collection. I'm like, oh, well, there's these. And bam, I have a new list. Hopefully, knock on wood again. Anyway, I've taken up enough of your time, so like and subscribe, and I'll see you the next time. Toodles.